Bahrain is hosting the 146th IPU Assembly and related meeting under the sponsorship of His Majesty the King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of Bahrain. May God keep him and protect him. This is a very important event, and it's a recognition of the importance of the IPU's role on the international arena. Bahrain's hosting of this event also reflects the excellent performance of Bahrain in the parliamentary field, and also according to the development process and vision of His Majesty the King. May God protect him and keep him under the close following and sponsorship and also surveillance by His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, Crown Prince and Deputy Supreme Commander of the Bahrain Defense Forces. This course of action is increasingly gaining importance, especially in light of the theme that we have chosen for our conference: promoting peaceful coexistence and inclusive societies, fighting intolerance. This is harmonious with the deeply enrooted principles and values of Bahrain, but also its rich, long-standing culture of coexistence and tolerance, and also its efforts for the betterment and development of humanity. His Excellency Sheikh Hamad bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, is called upon to take the floor in order to give the speech of His Majesty the King on the occasion of the IPU's 146th Assembly. In the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate, Excellencies, distinguished guests, may peace and God's mercy and blessings be upon you, the Kingdom of Bahrain. On behalf of His Majesty, King Hamad bin, I have the honor to deliver His Majesty the King's address on the occasion of the Interparliamentary Union 146th Assembly and related meetings. Your Excellency, the representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency, Mr. Ahmed bin Salman Al Musallam, Speaker of the Council of Representatives, Your Excellency Ali bin Saleh Al Saleh, Chairman of the Shura Council, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Peace and God's mercy and blessings be upon you. It is with great pleasure that we welcome you today on the occasion of the Interparliamentary Union's 146th Assembly and its related meetings. We wish you all a pleasant stay in the Kingdom of Bahrain, the country of love and tolerance, and the meeting point for religious, cultural, and civilizational harmony and coexistence. We are also pleased that the 146th Assembly General Debate will focus on the overall theme of promoting peaceful coexistence and inclusive societies, fighting intolerance, as it reflects our common awareness of the importance of establishing the values of tolerance and peace, rejecting division and hatred, and consolidating human solidarity as basic pillars for enhancing security, stability, prosperity, and sustainable development. We affirm our pride in your trust in choosing the Kingdom of Bahrain to host the largest and most prestigious International Parliamentary Assembly and related meetings. We express to you our best wishes of success in the global event, reaching outstanding results that reflect the will of the peoples of the world and their aspirations for living in societies that enjoy security, stability, and peace, and thrive on justice and respect for human rights. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, your assembly and related meetings are being held amid exceptional circumstances in which the world is struck by waves of hatred, enmity, wars, natural disasters, such as earthquakes and inundations or floods, crises related to climate change, water and food security issues, the exacerbation of extremism and terrorism, and other challenges that are impacting the present of humanity and threatening the future of the next generations. Such challenges impose on all of us, leaders, governments, and parliaments, far greater responsibilities in achieving a more just, equitable, and cohesive global political security and economic system built on robust foundations of friendship, mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and international partnership in maintaining international peace and security and advancing the principles of the UN Charter and international laws. Here, the significance of parliamentary diplomacy under the Interparliamentary Union in raising awareness of current issues and challenges is highlighted. Parliamentary diplomacy should encourage cooperation and the exchange of experiences among national parliaments. It should strengthen the parliament's oversight In this regard, we look forward to joint action on two levels. The first level is the consolidation of justice and the rule of law, adherence to the principles of responsible parliamentary action and the protection of human rights, freedoms, and dignity in accordance with modern legislation consistent with international human rights conventions. The second level is adopting foreign policies that respect the sovereignty of the state and its cultural diplomatic means and revive opportunities for just, comprehensive, and lasting peace in all parts of the world. It should also consolidate the values of human solidarity and dialogue among civilizations, religions, and cultures, as well as cooperation in combating extremism and terrorism and preventing the dangers of weapons of mass destruction. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, the Kingdom of Bahrain, while appreciating the opportunity to host this global parliamentary forum, affirms its pride in its civilized approach based on coexistence, the rule of law, respect for human rights, and cultural and religious diversity. They have been essential pillars since the national consensus on the adoption of the National Action Charter and the consolidation of the state of law and constitutional institutions. In this regard, we are proud of the success of our bicameral parliament with its Shura Council and Council of Representatives over 6 legislative terms and for more than 2 decades in presenting an example of the vibrancy of 73%. as per the separation of powers and cooperation stipulated in the kingdom's constitution. Thanks to constructive cooperation and effective partnership between the legislative and executive branches, we have been able to enact advanced legislation that strengthened respect for human rights and political, civil, economic, social, and cultural freedoms in the presence of a judiciary and fully independent human rights and civil institutions. While we affirm our determination to continue our democratic and human rights achievements, we do reiterate our full commitment to peace as a strategic choice and an imperative necessity to achieve security, prosperity, comprehensive development, and the protection of rights and freedoms in accordance with inherited religious and historical values, well-established constitutional practices, principles, and sustainable legislation and policies. These are clearly reflected in the Declaration of the Kingdom of Bahrain, the initiatives of the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, the signing of the Declaration in Support of Peace Agreement, and diplomatic and parliamentary initiatives that have affirmed our permanent commitment to advancing the values of peace and tolerance and promoting harmony among all peoples of different religions, cultures, and civilizations. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, with hope and anticipation, we look forward to your assembly and related meetings in Bahrain, reaching a consensus on decisions that enhance the spirit of tolerance and peaceful coexistence, deepen international partnership in achieving security and peace, ending wars and crises by peaceful means, supporting sustainable development goals through just solutions to environmental issues and climate change, securing international navigation and energy supplies, and economic cooperation in ensuring water and food security, facilitating trade exchange, and investing in renewable energy projects, digital transformation, and future sciences. In order to face the current challenges, we also need to encourage international humanitarian action in assisting the least developed countries, providing relief to millions of afflicted refugees, displaced persons, and victims of wars, disasters, and epidemics. Optimizing the use of financial resources for developmental purposes, putting an end to conflicts and preventing the waste of wealth on spreading enmity and hatred. In line with the theme of the 146th Assembly, we reiterate our call to the international community to enhance legislative and technical cooperation in approving an international agreement to criminalize religious, sectarian, and racist hate speech in all its forms, and to prevent the abuse of media and digital freedoms and platforms to disrespect religions or incite fanaticism, extremism, and terrorism. We also call for collective action to spread a culture of peace, understanding, and acceptance of others, strengthen the bonds of fraternity and friendship among nations, and integrate and disseminate these values in educational curricula and religious, cultural, and sports activities, guided by the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the call of all religions for tolerance and love. We extend once more our welcome to your second home, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and we hope that your meetings here will present an opportunity to learn more closely about the reality of civilizational development in our country and its developmental and civilizational achievements and religious and cultural coexistence. We wish you success in ensuring security, peace, tolerance, and prosperity to all members of the human family. Thank you, and peace and God's mercy and blessings be upon you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, on behalf of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of Bahrain, may God protect and preserve him, I declare the Interparliamentary Union 146th Assembly and related meetings open with the best wishes of success to you all. Thank you, Your Excellency Sheikh Khaled bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, Vice Prime Minister and Vice Sponsor of this inaugural ceremony. Thank you for giving us His Majesty's address on his behalf. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of Bahrain, may God protect and preserve him. His address also included a number of to give the floor to Mr. Ahmed bin Salman Al Musallam, President of the Council of Representatives of the Kingdom of Bahrain, to take the floor and come to the lectern to give us his address. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may Allah's prayers be upon our Prophet Muhammad, his family, and his companions. Your Excellency Sheikh Khaled bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, Vice Prime Minister. Your Excellency Duarte Pacheco, President of the Interparliamentary Union. Your Excellency Mr. Martin Chungong, Secretary General of the Interparliamentary Union. Your Excellency, heads of delegations and members of parliaments, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, may the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you all. At the outset, it is our honor to convey our deepest regards to His Majesty, King of Bahrain, for sponsoring this inaugural ceremony of the 146th IPU Assembly and related meetings. The support of His Majesty the King and his blessings of diplomatic parliamentary action in Bahrain was primordial in us hosting this international parliamentary assembly. It has deeply enrooted the stance and position of Bahrain and the recognition of its importance within the international community. It is a recognition of our role within international partnerships in countering our common risks and threats and facing challenges by finding radical solutions to the issues that are a source of concern for the entire world nowadays. I would like to welcome you all to the land of the Kingdom of Bahrain, a kingdom that has upheld democratic values for over 100 years now, when we held the first municipal local elections in 1912. This is a land that holds deep in its memory long-standing and authentic civilizations. Dilman, Tailis, Aval, and the Islamic civilizations were all successive civilizations that have come to Bahrain's land and have forged its historic heritage. It is very diverse in terms of their beliefs, but they all uphold the values of tolerance, peace, love, and coexistence. As a matter of fact, we find ourselves before a very valuable human heritage that Bahrain was long keen to preserve. we have actually shown this will of us when His Majesty the King launched a reform program which links between these supreme values and our national reform process. All of these were highlighted in numerous initiatives that we can enumerate to no end. These have become constant pillars of our national action and of the Constitution of Bahrain. After that, many legal committees and legislative bodies have enacted instruments in order to make tolerance and coexistence a reality. We are very proud of our racial and ethnic diversity. King Hamad's Center for Interreligious Dialogue and Coexistence, but also the adoption of the Bahrain Declaration for the promotion of world peace and the inauguration of King Hamad's chair for intracultural dialogue in one of the most prestigious Italian universities, all are examples of our deep and high commitment to this process. This has highlighted also the role of Bahrain in this regard. It has given the world a very accurate image of our attachment and commitment to the values of love and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, by presenting to you these highlights of Bahrain's experience in tolerance and coexistence, we mean to say that our state is one of the most important champions of peace. We are fully aware of the importance of channeling parliamentary work within the international community towards promoting the language of dialogue and refuting any kind of discrimination and extremism. We have had a number of success stories. These success stories can be a meeting point for us all to achieve our joint aspirations. Our meeting today aims at coming up with real, tangible visions and plans that would contribute to achieving the aspirations of all those participating in this assembly hosted by Bahrain, which is held under the title of Promoting Peaceful Coexistence and Inclusive Societies. We are here to invest and harness our parliamentary will and our political influence in order to achieve this rapprochement and in order to converge the efforts of our countries and our societies. We have to highlight the best practices that make the human cause a supreme cause that prevails all other causes. The Kingdom of Bahrain is hosting over 1,700 representatives of over 178 parliaments from all over the world. This goes to prove our commitment, our collective commitment to these human values. We have to build peaceful communities, whereas the world is paying a heavy toll due to the outbreak and widespread of terrorism, radicalism, wars, and violent extremism. All of these scourges undermine peace, human rights, and sustainable development. These deeply impact all regions of the world and all countries. No country is spare. This increases the responsibility that we as parliamentarians have to shoulder in finding practical measures and procedures that would be really effective in tackling all of these challenges, all of these important issues that have become a source of common concern for us all. This assembly is an opportunity for all of us, parliamentarians, to open ourselves up to new horizons, horizons of dialogue, horizons of efforts in order to strengthen parliamentary action within the framework of our overarching theme. We have to raise the influential voice of parliaments within the international arena. We have to push forward for more developments, for more advancements in strengthening coexistence, tolerance, and peace, so as to serve the best interests of all peoples of the world. Through our meetings and sittings, we aspire to participate in fruitful debates that would reflect positively through outcomes, plans, and visions that serve international parliamentary action and cooperation. In conclusion, allow me to welcome you once again to the Kingdom of Bahrain. I wish you a pleasant stay and successful sittings. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Ahmed bin Salman Al Musallim, Speaker of the Council of Representatives and Chairman of the Executive Committee of the Parliamentary Group of Bahrain. Thank you for your kind words. I would like to call upon Her Excellency Haya bin Rashid Al Khalifa, member of the General Assembly of the United Nations, to give us her address. Sheikh Khaled bin Abdullah, vice sponsor of our inaugural ceremony and vice president of the government, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to address this August assembly of heads and members of delegations representing parliaments that are members to the IPU. I would like to welcome you all to my country, Bahrain, the land of tolerance, the land of peace, the land of diversity, a land that is proud to host a various number and a various group of expatriates, of migrants coming from various nationalities, from various backgrounds, all of whom are enjoying life in peace under a set of laws that guarantee peace and protection of their freedoms. We have welcomed His Holiness Pope Francis to Bahrain last November, who paid us a visit of peace, tolerance, and coexistence. The collective prayers that were led by Pope Francis with the crowds gave a clear message that bears no doubt about Bahrain's commitment to supporting peace, hope, coexistence, and tolerance. Dear brothers and sisters, our world today staggers beneath a cohort of crises and conflicts. I'm talking about cold or hot wars. I'm talking about violations of international law, especially when it comes to relationships between neighboring countries. I have personally had the honor to follow up as President of the General Assembly of the United Nations in its 61st session. Through that international tribune, I was able to follow up on the different ramifications and intertwining of these different conflicts and how they evolve into conflicts between cultures and civilizations. Our region was shaken a couple of weeks ago by a massive earthquake, an earthquake that has demolished roads, buildings, schools, mosques, churches. Tens of thousands of people were displaced and found themselves afflicted by loss. When looking at the reality of our world today, we noticed that there have been also earthquakes that are man-made, earthquakes that have translated through, for example, toppling of regimes, toppling of governments, through coups. If we cannot prevent natural disasters, let us at least try to prevent disasters caused by the greed of mankind. Let us abandon the illusion of uniformity, of homogeneity, of imposing identities on other races, on other religions. Many of those conflicts can be traced back to a lack of understanding of the other, the different other, or an unjustified will to control others, to take over others. These sow differences and divisions among countries. History has taught us that waging wars is just like entering a very dark room, a room with no key that no one knows how to get out of. These wars cause wars of attrition. They take over resources and they lead to a lot of loss. These conflicts engender a lot of human suffering, the suffering of refugees and displaced persons who have to live through the plight of hunger and disease. This world needs the likes of yourselves. to raise the voice of peoples, to underscore the importance of tolerance and mutual understanding, to solve conflicts through negotiations and dialogue, by providing the opportunity to citizens to live in peace, to coexist in peace. This is the main concern. Security is the main need of humanity today. Our citizens need honest livelihoods to win their breads. Difficulties and hardships are increasing, especially with the advancement of technology and social media platforms. Some of those platforms are misused in order to spread poisonous idea, to sow discord, to sow suspicion, to spread false news. Our only salvation, dear brothers and sisters, is through the promotion of a new culture, a counterculture that spreads tolerance, that provides future generations a glimpse of hope in a better tomorrow. A culture that opens the door wide ahead for justice, for human advancement, for human dignity, for demining the political sphere. All of these efforts have to converge. This responsibility is collective. We are interdependent. There is no assembly better than this one to open this window to the future, a window to a new world, a window to spread these values. Peace is cheaper than war, and tolerance is cheaper than hatred. Thank you very much. Allow me once again to welcome you to the Kingdom of Bahrain. Thank you, Your Excellency Sheikha Haya bint Rashid Al Khalifa, member of the Council of Presidents of the United Nations General Assembly, for your kind words. We will now listen to a pre-recorded video statement by His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. On behalf of all of us, I should like to thank His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, for this special message. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call upon His Excellency Mr. Martin Chungong, Secretary General of the Interparliamentary Union, to take the floor to give his address. Thank you.
that all parliamentary roads
ويمكنني أن
lead
أقول
to
لكم
Bahrain
إن
these
كل
days,
الطرق
and we
البرلمانية
have
تؤدي إلى البحرين في هذه
cause to be
الأيام
proud of that.
ولا بد لنا من
I
أن
say
نفخر
this
بذلك.
because
أقول لكم ذلك
array of
لأن
participants here
نطاق
tonight
المشاركة
is
في
reflective
هذه
of the human
الجمعية
race itself,
يعكس
the diversity
البشرية بحد
that we
ذاتها،
embody.
يعكس
We are here
التنوع
of
الذي
different
نمثله،
backgrounds,
ونحن هنا
religion,
ننتمي إلى خلفيات
race,
مختلفة،
cultures,
من أديان مختلفة
political
وأعراق
affiliation, and
مختلفة
all.
وانتسابات
But we are united
وانتماءات سياسية
here over
مختلفة،
the next several
ولكننا
days
متحدون
in service
اليوم
to mankind.
ومجتمعون من أجل خدمة
I would
البشرية.
like to
أود
register our gratitude to
أن أعرب
Bahrain
عن امتناننا
for offering the
للبحرين.
IPU the
نحن نشكر
opportunity
البحرين لأن
to
المملكة
play
قدمت
its role
للاتحاد فرصة
as the
أداء
global
دوره
convener of
باعتباره
parliaments.
في الواقع
We
المنتدى
have
العالمي للبرلمانات.
130
لدينا
parliaments represented here.
130 برلمانا
If it
ممثلا
had been
في
possible
هذا
to have
الحفل،
all 178 parliaments here,
لدينا
if it
178
had been
برلمانا
possible
في
to have all
الاتحاد،
45,000 parliamentarians
وهناك
worldwide
45,000
here, I'm sure
برلماني لو كان من
the
الممكن أن
authorities of
نجمعهم
Bahrain would have
جميعا
loved that,
في
and the IP would
أننا
have loved that. But
كانت
I dare to say that we do have
لن
here
يسعنا
a
جميعا،
representative
ولكن
sample
علي أن
of
أقول
the
أن
people
هناك
out
عينة
there,
تمثل
and that
البرلمانيين من
whatever
حول
is coming
العالم،
out of your deliberations
وكل ما سوف
is
يتمخض
something
عن
that is
مداولاتكم
representative of
إنما
the
سوف
broad interest of the
يمثل
people of the
المصالح
world today.
الكبرى لشعوب
I
العالم
am
اليوم.
grateful because
وأنا ممتن
Bahrain
أيضا
gives us the
لأن
opportunity
مملكة
to
البحرين
bring people
أعطتنا
together,
فرصة جمع
people
الناس
of
مع بعضهم
different
البعض،
thoughts
أشخاص
that
ينتمون
would
إلى
then
تيارات
have
فكرية
a
ربما مختلفة،
very safe environment
وشعروا
to carry out
بالأمان
deliberations
وشعروا
with
بأمان
freedom of
هذا
expression,
المنتدى بحيث
respectful
يتمكنون
of the views of
من
one another. In a
تبادل
nutshell,
أطراف
we
الحديث
have the opportunity here
والتفاوض مع
to give
احترام
voice
آراء
to all of the people in the
بعضنا
world,
بعضا.
to the
وهنا
45,000
من المهم
parliamentarians,
أن نسمح
and by
لشعوب
extension
العالم أن
to the
تعبر عن
some 8
صوتها.
billion people on this planet. I
45
therefore
ألف
wish
برلماني من حول
to
العالم
express
يمثلون
my strong
8
hope that
مليارات
our
نسمة،
deliberations will be
وبالتالي أنا
devoid
في
and
أن
bereft
تكون
of
مباحثاتنا
self-serving rhetoric,
خالية من
arrogance, inflammatory, intolerance, utterances, and that we will live up to the dignity and standards of parliamentary life as we have known them in our various jurisdictions. Secondly, Your Excellency, I want to thank you and your colleagues for allowing the IPU to play its role as bridge builder. During the next several days, there will be a host of meetings here, bilateral, multilateral, and otherwise. The IPU itself and its former structures will be convening meetings that are intended to bring people together, to close the gap between differences among people, and to come up with solutions that are consensual. We'll have meetings of an important mechanism such as the Committee on Middle East Questions, trying to bring together positions regarding strife in the Middle East. We'll have meetings of the Cyprus Committee looking at how we can bring the gap between the different communities on Cyprus. And I want to use this opportunity, and I hope the Israeli delegation will forgive me if I say this. Yesterday, I was very honored to meet the high-level delegations of Israel. I'm sure you'll agree with me that several years ago it would not have been possible to have them here in this very country. And that is the concrete expression of the peaceful coexistence that we are all clamoring for. That you may have differences, you may have different opinions, but you're willing to come together. And I salute Bahrain for giving us that opportunity to live up to the foundational values of this organization, dialogue for the resolution of disputes. I am sure that the founding fathers of this organization, Kremer and Pasi, would be smiling in their graves to see the sons and daughters of this world of different opinions coming together in
هذا
common
العالم
cause to mankind.
المختلفين يجتمعون
I
مع
therefore
بعضهم
believe
تحت
that
سقف
over the
واحد.
next
وبالتالي
several days,
أنا أعتقد
parliamentary
أنه في السنوات
diplomacy, which is
المقبلة
complementary
الدبلوماسية
to the
البرلمانية
traditional
التي
form of democracy,
تكمل
will be in full
الدبلوماسية
display
التقليدية
in
سوف
Bahrain.
تعرف
Before I
معناها
conclude, I
الكامل
want
هنا في
to say a few
البحرين.
words about
وختاما
democracy
أود
because
أن
there has been a lot
أتحدث
of hype
قليلا عن
about
الديمقراطية
what
لأننا
democracy is,
تحدثنا
the
كثيرا عن
presence or
أهمية
absence of democracy
الديمقراطية
around the world.
وما يعني وجود أو
Mr.
غياب
President, I'm sure
الديمقراطية من حول
you're going to
العالم.
have a few words about this, but let me
حضرة
say
الرئيس أنا على يقين
that
أنك سوف
democracy
تتحدث
is
عن
an
ذلك.
aspiration.
ولكن لنقل
It's
إن
never
الديمقراطية
a finite
طموح
product. It is
ليست
always work in
نتيجة أو
progress.
غاية نهائية،
It is
إنما
always
هي
something
غاية
that we
نصل
need to
إليها
perfect on a daily
بطريقة
basis.
مضطردة، وعلينا أن نطور
I say this
الديمقراطية
because we
في
meet in a
حياتنا
country
اليومية. أقول ذلك
that
لأننا
has made a lot
نلتقي
of
في
progress when
بلد
it comes
حقق
to
الكثير من
inclusiveness,
التقدم
a
فيما
country that has
يتعلق
made great
بشمولية
strides in
المجتمع.
terms
هذا
of
البلد
gender
الذي
equality.
كافح من أجل
We can
المساواة
say
بين
today when we
الجنسين،
look at the
ويمكننا اليوم
data
أن
regarding
ننظر
Bahrain
إلى
that the
البيانات
parliament
المتصلة
is
بالبحرين
urging
ونقول إن البرلمان
towards gender parity
يحث ويدفع
and is a
نحو المساواة
trailblazer
بين
in the region.
الجنسين،
I did
وهذا
my homework
أمر
and I
مميز في
discovered
المنطقة.
that this parliament
واكتشفت أن هذا
has
البرلمان
20% membership
لديه
represented by women. The
20%
average in this region is 17.7%, which means that they are above the regional average. They are close to the global average, which I was pleased to announce a few days ago, of 26.5% worldwide. And I want to use this opportunity, therefore, to urge the authorities of this country to be more vigilant and more robust to promote gender equality, because I have had cause to see that women and men contribute effectively to the well-being of society. So I want to conclude by saying that we should all echo what is said in the IPU's strategy in terms of its vision. We want a world where every voice counts. We want democracy for all at all times, and democracy that delivers on the expectations of all the people and not just a group of individuals. Democracy that, in terms of SDGs, leaves no one behind. Because democracy may be advanced, human rights may be advanced, all the hallmarks of democracy may be advanced, but if this does not translate into concrete products beneficial to the people, then it's meaningless. So we're here, I hope, and the decisions that will be taken here will go towards making democracy meaningful to the majority of the people of this world. We want to see this assembly here lead to strong decisions for parliaments to prosecute the development agenda, access to health care, universal health coverage, access to schools for children, access to education in general, and job opportunities for young people. It is only then that Parliament, and by extension the Interparliamentary Union, can stay relevant to the global community. So remember, democracy for everyone, democracy that delivers for everyone. Thank you very much.
شكرا لمعالي الأمين العام للاتحاد البرلماني الدولي على هذه الكلمة الكريمة. أما الآن حضورنا الكريم، أدعو معالي السيد دوارتي باتشيكو رئيس الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي لإلقاء كلمته، فليتفضل.
Your Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Bahrain, representing His Majesty the King, Mr. Chairperson of the Shura Council of Bahrain, Mr. Speaker of the Council of Representatives of Bahrain, Mr. Secretary General, Madam representing the General Assembly of the United Nations, Madam Speakers, Mr. Speakers, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. It's an honor to address you all at this inaugural ceremony of 146th IPU Assembly, here in the beautiful Kingdom of Bahrain. May I say that I will speak in name of all of you to say thank you to the National Assembly of Bahrain for its gracious and capable hosting of this assembly in the wonderful surroundings of the recently opened exhibition World Bahrain. Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chairperson, to both of you, I need to say thanks again for your personal commitment on the preparation of this assembly. All the details were oversight. And now we parliamentarians across the world, we have all the conditions to have a very productive and successful assembly. Allow me to extend my gratitude to the former Speaker of the Council of Representatives of Bahrain, Honorable Madame Fazia Zainal, because without her personal invitation and commitment to achieve all the conditions to host one of IPU assemblies, we will not be here. And equally, to our colleague and friend, Jamal, I am not seeing you because of the camera, but Jamal, you spend many sleepless nights to guarantee that everything is on the right place as chairperson of the committee of the organization of this wonderful assembly. Thank you very much for all your efforts and for the staff that work with you. Your Excellency, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, we are great for your presence, which is very important for us in IPU, and also it represents how is important the multilateralism and the parliamentarian diplomacy to the authorities and to His Majesty the King of Bahrain. Thank you for your presence, Excellency. Dear colleagues, the theme of this assembly is the promotion of peaceful coexistence and inclusive societies and combating all discrimination. And allow me to say that this is the correct place to discuss this issue, as I had the possibility to confer during the Bahrain Dialogue Forum a few months ago, where two great religious leaders, His Holiness Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, His Eminence Dr. Ahmed Al-Tayed, met with the support of His Majesty the King Hamad bin Isa Al-Khalifa. But unfortunately, there are numerous indicators that peaceful coexistence and inclusion worldwide are in decline, and that intolerance and discrimination are on the rise. According to the Global Peace Index, the rise of violent demonstrations throughout 2022 pointed to increasing polarization, criticism of administrative structures, and decrease of tolerance towards diverging views. Online hate speech continues to sow division and is increasing against minorities. According to the report of United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, in addition, trust in government and in media worldwide is decreasing. Religious freedoms are being curtailed, and religious discrimination, racism, xenophobia are rising. We, as parliamentarians, we have an important role and responsibility when it comes to building a peaceful and inclusive society. We must begin this work in our own parliamentary committees, as shown by the huge caseload of the IPU Committee on the Human Rights of Parliamentarians. MPs are facing severe violations of their rights in many countries of our world. Their colleagues, our colleagues, are suffering from other members of parliament and from their constituents. It's a time for all MPs around the world say we are with you and to show our solidarity with all MPs that are suffering around the world. But, dear friends, more broadly, governments around the world must match their pledge to create tolerant and inclusive societies with concrete actions to guarantee human rights for all. In this context, I wish to recall extremely difficult situation where women are facing in many countries around the world, in particular in Afghanistan. The courage and the strength these women show standing up against violation of their rights, be it in Afghanistan or in Tigray, for example, is incredible and deserves our full support. But more than that, it deserves a concrete action of the international community with a process of dialogue to find solutions to this violation of human rights. Many of the problems we are facing today are painfully familiar. The war in Ukraine continues with signs of the further escalation and ever more severe global consequences. The IPU Task Force on the peaceful resolution of the war in Ukraine has continued its engagement, seeking to promote open and productive discussions. It hopes to find a route to bring parliamentarians from both sides around the same table. It was not possible until now. The IPU calls for a ceasefire didn't have a success. Our goal remains crystal clear. This war must end. This invasion must end. The international law must prevail. We should respect the full integrity of Ukraine. But, dear friends, we have other problems in our world. Combat against terrorism that affect many hours of our planet, but especially the countries of the Sahel region, where in 2022 more people died than in all other countries of the world. In just 4 countries died more people than on the other more than 190 countries of our world. It is important that everyone helps these countries to fight their war on terrorism. Otherwise, the problem will increase and more people will die or abandon this critical zone. The combat on poverty needs to be addressed. The last report from the United Nations indicates that least developed countries increased during the last years. How may we accept it? More help from the richer countries to poor countries is urgent. But also, governance improvement in these countries is in many cases essential in order to have a real combat to poverty. Also, very near from here, we have the conflict in Palestine, which is very far to come to an end. You know what is the position of IPU. IPU defends the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine. Both states have the right to live in a sustainable and safe environment.
فللدولتين الحق
Israel needs to feel safe
ومستدامة.
without terrorist attacks
تحتاج
that kill
إسرائيل إلى
innocent
الشعور
people.
بالأمان
But
بدون
Palestine
التعرض لأي هجمات
needs
إرهابية
also to be
تؤذي
safe
حياة الأبرياء.
and without fear of attacks.
بحاجة إلى
And
شعور
especially, the
وعدم
Palestinians
الخوف
needs to
من
have a
التعرض
sustainable state,
لغارات وهجمات
which is
وبخاصة
why we need to
يحتاج
condemn the
الفلسطينيون
settlements
إلى
policy
بناء
of
دولتهم
Israel.
المستدامة. ولهذا السبب علينا أن ندين سياسة الاستيطان الإسرائيلية.
Dear friends, moreover, we must not forget that many other conflicts around the world exist. But MPs do not enter this challenge times empty-handed. Powerful concepts and tools are at their disposal. The application of both human security and common security approach which foresee action centered on human development and the protection of people, as well as use of dialogue to build trust and confidence between people and nations should help us in this endeavor. In Nusa Dua, dear friends, 1 year ago, we recognized the urgency of the climate crisis as an existential threat to humankind and knowledge that immediate action must be taken. After tragic floods in Pakistan or in Brazil, hurricanes in Philippines, Venezuela, Mozambique, just to give some examples, that killed thousands of people. The rise of sea level in the Pacific that is destroying lives in so many countries, awful and severe drought that it and heat waves that kill thousands in Africa and Europe. We must act, not just talk. We will be launching here the IPU News Parliaments for the Planet campaign, with the aim of mobilizing all parliaments, MPs and staff to undertake concrete actions to reduce their carbon footprint. And IPU itself will also be taking action. Some of these actions are institutional, but others are related to individual behavior and consumption. We all can, may I say, we all should do more to combat climate change. The 10 actions that accompany the launch of the IPU climate change campaign outline concrete steps that each one of us can take. I encourage you all to use this document and make a commitment to yourself and your children and grandchildren that this planet will be a better place in which to live. But we also need to be prepared for other dangers. The worst of the COVID-19 pandemic is over, but another health crisis may be around the corner. Technological advances, particularly in terms of vaccines, are reasons for optimism. The recent devastating earthquakes in Syria and Turkey show that we need to renew our focus on disaster risk reduction in every part of the world. In the Horn of Africa, 22 million people are currently experiencing acute food insecurity due to a historical drought that began in late 20s and is expected to continue. Already there, more than 1.7 million people have left their homes in search of food and water. The clock is also ticking on sustainable development goals. We must not backslide on our commitment to make the world a better place for all by 2030. Great strides have been made over the past 20 years, yes. And we must build on these achievements. But it seems that democracy is under threat also. Like limiting the rights of young men and women to express their views and process peaceful pose a major challenge to democracy. Limiting humans' access to or even excluding them for decision-making positions like education or healthcare is also a threat to democracy and to the basic human rights. I will repeat again, what is happening in Afghanistan needs a strong condemnation. When the right of education is refused to women, and we know also that MPs are educated. The proliferation of disinformation and fake news is shaping up to be another big issue on our agenda. We need to ensure that our parliaments become ever stronger institutions, more effective, more inclusive, more resilient, more accountable. And that's why we are here, because IPU assemblies are a golden opportunity for us to learn from one another, to combine our strengths and address all the problems together. The IPU has worked in an intensive way for many years to encourage greater gender equality in parliaments. Under the Kigali Declaration on Gender Equality and Gender-Sensitive Parliaments adopted at our last assembly was just the last example of this commitment. But sadly, parliamentary elections last year were a mixed bag in terms of improving the gender balance of our parliaments. On the upside, we may say, for the first time ever in our history, not a single parliament is working without one woman elected or appointed. It's a good news. But unfortunately, the parliamentary renewals in 2022 saw a woman elected or appointed to more than 40% of the seats, but the growth was so slow, 0.4, that we need more decades, several decades, to achieve the parity. So we must redouble efforts to reach the goals we have set for our parliaments and our countries. In addition to more women MPs, we need to have more young MPs. We cannot be truly inclusive without including the younger generation. The IPU's I Say Yes to Youth in Parliament campaign continues to go from strength to strength. But more can be done. I encourage all of you here in this wonderful city of Panama to promote this campaign, and so we can help to rejuvenate your own parliament. Dear friends, dear colleagues, we will have a busy year ahead. Let us set the scene for a productive 2023 by getting down to work on the many issues we are facing right away here in Manama. I know that you all came here with this objective: work to build a better world, and we will do it during these days. Thank you so much.
شكرا لمعالي السيد دوارتي باتشيكو رئيس الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي على كلمته المفعمة حقيقة بروح الأمل والتفاؤل والعمل والإنجاز. السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، باسمكم جميعا نتقدم إلى المقام السامي لحضرة صاحب الجلالة ملك مملكة البحرين المعظم حفظه الله ورعاه بأسمى آيات التقدير وعظيم الامتنان على التفضل برعاية هذا الحدث. كما نتقدم بجزيل الشكر لمعالي الشيخ خالد بن عبد الله آل خليفة نائب رئيس مجلس الوزراء نائب راعي الحفل على تشريفنا بحضوره الكريم، ونرجو منكم حضورنا الكريم البقاء في أماكنكم لحين مغادرة نائب راعي الحفل الكريم، وندعوكم أيضا التوجه بعد ذلك إلى حفل الاستقبال الذي يقام في البهو المفتوح أمام هذه القاعة. نكرر مرة أخرى ترحيبنا بكم في بلدكم مملكة البحرين، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Your second country, the Kingdom of Bahrain, may the peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah be upon you.